Everyone. So right now I'm just going to take some time to assemble a very simple track inside of Ableton and export it. And as I do that, I'm just going to go through a few things that some of you are probably aware of. For others, it might be a good refresher. And for others, this might be a good video to watch if you're getting further into music production. So right now I have my MIDI channels and I have my audio channels. You'll notice that despite the fact that my MIDI channel doesn't have an instrument that's attached to it, I still have, input on. So I am receiving MIDI information on this channel. And if I turned this button on, this channel would receive MIDI information in. I have a MIDI controller that I'm using, but also if you wanted to use the keys on your keyboard, all you need to do is press this small little piano button, and suddenly you would be able to use all of the middle keys on your piano, on your laptop to be able to play piano keys. And if you press either Z or X, you will go up an octave or down an octave. So you can really explore the entire piano roll. Great. So let's go ahead and let's just add an instrument on here. I'm just going to go for an organ. So I'm going to type that up here on the top. My setup might look a little bit different than yours, and that's totally fine. Okay, organ basics. That sounds pretty good. I've just dragged the instrument over to the MIDI channel that I want to play it on. Great. And I can now, when I play the MIDI keyboard or I play my keys, I am getting MIDI information that is getting passed to this instrument, and I can play with all of the parameters of this instrument right here. But let's say, for instance, I want to start making a song, right? There's a few things that I can do. I can press Tab and go right over here into the kind of arrangement view, and I can start recording, and I can start playing some chords or some notes over here, and it will record them. And maybe if I have my metronome on or I have other instruments that I'm playing along to, this would be pretty easy. Another tactic that you can use, and I'm actually going to go ahead and change my BPM at the top right here, which is at 120. I'm going to change it to 88. I just like that value. And if I press this ticker right here, nothing's happening right now. But if I were actually to press play, you would see we now have a metronome for this BPM. And this is really useful if we want to use this to play a song. So what I am going to do right now is I'm going to show you a technique that you can use to be able to start to build your song up. And that's, I'm going to create a loop. Now the loop, all I did was I double clicked on my instrument, and we see that we have this loop right here. If I press play, the ticker starts, the counter for the entire song starts, and we have our loop, which is just going by really quickly. This is a really short loop. So I'm going to stop this right here. If I want to make my loop a little bit longer, all I need to do is make sure that the entire loop is selected, and then I can just press ×2, and it doubles it. That seems about right for me. And I am going to, I want to really record inside of this loop. Now, there's a recording button that we're familiar with using, and then there's another button right here, this is the session record button. And let's read the description right here. Toggles between playback and overdub recording for clips which are currently playing or armed on tracks. In MIDI clips, both notes and automations can be ba. Okay, so this is a lot of new information, but what does it actually mean? I'm going to press record right here. And if I press notes inside, despite the fact that this loop is going, it's actually not recording anything or playing anything. So that's not good. But if I go ahead and I press this session recording view, great. So what this is essentially allowing me to do is record into these loops. It's also going to allow me to change automations live. So I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to be and I'm going to click on this so that I can see it. Great, that looks wonderful. Let's see what happens when we get back to the beginning of the loop. Oh, wow, that's automated for us. Let's do one that's a little bit more apparent, actually. There we go. Now I'm automating in real time as well. This is pretty useful. I don't actually like that last automation though, so I'm gonna get rid of that by pressing Command Z, and there we go. It just steps backwards so that I can get rid of that last automation. Now I have one loop that I'm playing with that I like. I don't really need the metronome anymore, so I'm gonna turn this off. And let's see if we can go get a bass. I'm gonna probably try out a few. Let's try this one. Oh, that's kind of nice. I'm gonna make it a little bit lower. Ooh. I don't know if that really works with the instrument, but let's see. Okay, that works kind of well. So now what I want to do is I want to be able to create another loop that's about the same size so I can play the bass on top of this chord progression. So I'm going to double click right here. And remember, I need to have this loop selected, and I can press ×2, ×2. Great. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to start over from the beginning. I am recording on this MIDI channel, and I am going to press the session record button. Yeah, one of the chords in here I'm not super happy with, at least in the terms of the bass, but that's okay. If I'm happy with this, and let's just assume I am, even though I'm not necessarily happy with it, we'll go over to the arrangement view, and you'll actually see I don't really see these here at all. In fact, I see this kind of like hollow thing, and I see this overdub button. What is this button? So what this does is it says, hey, right now you're playing loops. And those loops are not referring to anything that's on the arrangement view. In fact, these could go on forever. If I pressed play, these would go on indefinitely. If I press this button, we're going to return to referring specifically to the arrangement view. So if I press this, and now I press play, nothing's going to happen, because it's not referring to the loops anymore. So how do I get my loops onto my arrangement view? Well, there's a few different ways you can do this. You can hold on to this, press tab, and drag it to the corresponding instrument. Or I just pressed Command Z. You can actually press the record button and then play them. And actually, I'm going to do this in a slightly different way, because if I play those off time, it's not really going to work. But I'm recording this. Okay, pretty nasty, but that's okay. And now that I have those there, I'm just gonna do that. And here we go. Look at this. I can now take this loop and make it bigger or smaller. And what's kind of important to know here is these loops are actually not dependent on these anymore. We've recorded these loops onto our arrangement view. But if I now clicked on this and I went in here and I changed some notes, I'm just going to solo this track for a second. So let's bring these down here. Cool. But the thing is, now that I've changed the notes in this loop, it is not going to change the notes in this loop. I have recorded this, and this is completely individual and different now, which is good and bad. I'll tell you why it's good. Because now I can actually go ahead, duplicate this, and go over here and completely change something on here. So now we have okay, and then once I get to this part of the song, so I have taken a loop, I've recorded it onto Ableton, and then I've duplicated that loop and I've actually changed it, and I'm control clicking on this so that I can actually make it a different color, because now I can say, hey, these two things are totally different. And with these tools, I can really start to build up a song. I can kind of get like a chorus down, or I can get like the melody for a verse down in the loop, and then I can record it into here, drag it around. I can manipulate the individual notes in here to get them exactly the way that I want them to sound. And then once everything's done, I can actually export this track. So this is looking good. Let me do one more thing, which is just apply a little bit of automation onto this. So as we were looking at before, this is my organ right here. I want to be able to automate some things. And I don't see where those are here. So I actually need to press this button, automation mode, and immediately we see this line, which we can add keyframes to and apply automation across this chord progression. So I'm going to go down to the actual parameters of the instrument, and here's the two small tabs down here are always going to be looking at notes and the clip, and it's going to be looking at the instrument and the audio effects. So I'm going to, what's something that I want to, well, let's add an audio effect. I'm going to go here. Maybe I want to add like a delay. Yeah, maybe like a little echo. Perfect. And I'm going to just solo this track for a little while. Maybe I want to change this so it's a little bit. Okay. And now maybe I want to actually change the dry and wetness of that over time. So I've just clicked on dry wet right here, and now I can just add keyframes in. Maybe I want to make this very echoey over here, and then once it gets back to here, I'm just going to bring it down, and I'll do the same thing with this. Let's see how that sounds. It's kind of a little bit of a build. I'm going to unsolo. So a few things that I'm noticing right here is this bass is so buzzy. It's just like taking away, and it's so loud. I'm going to go to this bass, and I'm going to actually add a little bit of stereo spread. And for this bass, I'm going to add a lot of stereo spread. Let's see. And I'm going to bring the volume down on the bass. And I actually am going to add a little bit of frequency stuff. Okay, that's sounding nicer. I actually also think I want to maybe bring the bass down in terms of frequency. I might bring it down an octave because right now I think a lot of the frequencies are kind of stepping on each other. And because of that, it's just, it's a little, Okay, I could play around with this for hours. Let's not do that. I'm gonna go ahead, duplicate this, and maybe I'll do like one more thing, which is I want to add. Now that I've done this and I've kind of like added live instruments on top of my loops, and then I brought them in here, I want to actually play an instrument on top of this. So maybe I'll go to our handy dandy sine waveform. I'll bring this down here. I am going to bring the release up. I'm going to make this a little weird. I'm going to add the LFO. I'm going to turn the LFO really far down just so it's like oscillating a little bit, and bring this really far down. Let's hear it. I'm going to turn let's turn the attack up, and let's turn the release actually down. Let's turn this up just a little bit. Let's turn this. I like that LFO when it's very slow. Kind of gives it like a VHS kind of. Hear that? Perfect. Okay, let's see. I want to record this on top. So I see that this MIDI channel is taking recordings in, and I'm just going to press record because I'm not recording this onto a loop. I'm just recording this onto the arrangement. Okay, again, really messy, but now I have this live recorded MIDI track that's on top of here. And again, with this, I can just kind of go in and say, like, you know what? Actually, maybe just like that there, and I'm going to have this go on for a while, and then just have the volume kind of drop out. So I'm going to mixer, I'm going to track volume, and maybe this will be kind of like a reoccurring like motif. Gotta have that fade a lot faster. So tons of different things you could do. Now that I've done this and I've made this very sloppy, very crunchy song, I can go and I can say File, Export, and what it's going to export is it's going to export this arrangement, what's actually on the arrangement view, and I can name it whatever I want. I'll say Crunchy Sloppy, and I'll put that on my desktop. And as you can see, I have a pretty messy desktop. But let's see. Where is Crunchy Sloppy? There we go. Oh, did I just export the MIDI? Oh, I just exported the MIDI clip. That was so weird. Okay, don't do that. But if I do export the audio video, I'm just going to say sloppy, crunchy. Great. Wonderful. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. This video was mainly just to kind of show how you would arrange songs and answer any of the questions about moving things from loops over to the arrangement view and vice versa. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks. Bye.